You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
What is up, good people? Welcome back to the Tone Mob Podcast. Thank you for being here. I do apologize for this one being a day late. That is very unlike me. I've been pretty steady Eddie for most of my podcasting career, but I'll be honest. I'm doing 3 podcasts a week plus Patreon episodes on top of everything else I'm doing. And this is not a complaint, by the way. I know it kind of sounds like one. I decided to take an actual Memorial Day weekend this weekend and hang out with the kiddos and put a little less time into the interwebs than usual. And as a result, I had to delay this by a day because I actually took a nice Memorial Day to go go-karting with my oldest son. So thank you to all of you who check out all this content and enable me to even have that opportunity. I really appreciate it. In my previous careers, that probably wouldn't have been an option. Let's just put it that way. Anyhow, my guest this week is Mr. Zephyr Avalon. He plays bass for one of the largest touring acts in the world, and it kind of came out of nowhere. He plays bass for Zach Bryan. He's an enormous country artist who exploded out of the internet, which I kind of love. I love Zach Bryan's origin story as far as, I'm not sure how to describe it, sort of an internet Cinderella story. He posted stuff on Twitter and YouTube and exploded. Now, I know that's a gross oversimplification, but this guy went from posting stuff on Twitter to literally selling out every stadium in the United States in just a couple years. And Zephyr has been there for almost the entire ride. It's so crazy what has happened. And Zephyr, this dude, he bleeds music. Music is in his DNA. There is nothing that this guy was going to do other than music. Hearing his story was really genuinely inspiring and makes me want to work harder at, playing guitar, because I'm kind of a gorilla when it comes to that. But listening to this dude talk was really inspiring. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did. This is a really good one. I should just shut up. What am I doing? Let's get to the episode already. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Zephyr Avalon. What's going on, dude?
Not too much. Just a beautiful morning here in Los Angeles, California. Finally, the sun's out. It's been dark and gloomy all week, and I hate it. I love the sun.
It's been rather nice here in Oregon, which is a change.
What part of Oregon you from?
I'm just south of Portland.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you say Beaverton? That's above Portland.
It's kind of like west / slightly north of Portland, but Oregon City is just like directly south.
That's cool. I got a lot of family in Oregon, all over the state: Medford, Eugene, and Portland. So
okay. Well, next time you're back here, we'll get some pizza.
Oh, for sure.
Mhm.
100%. Love Portland. I will
Yes.
definitely be back.
All right, sweet. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know, man. It'd be fun to hang in person. But
Oh, definitely.
well, I want to get you on the show because I've been following you for a while. You've been playing our strings and all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
But
String joy for life.
So good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Of course, man.
But what I really wanted to know is your story. I don't know your story. I know that you have been playing bass and guitar for a long time. You're very good at it, and that's the extent of it. That's what I know. So how did you get into this crazy gig you found yourself in, and like what is the Zephyr story? When did you start?
Do you want me to start from the end and work back, or do you want me to start from the beginning and work forwards?
Let's start from the beginning and work forward.
All right, cool. Well, I was born in the Bay Area to two musician parents. They're both classical musicians. My mom, Carol, she's a flutist, and my dad, Mark, is a bassist. Although around the time I was born, I think my dad was, he was trying to branch out into other sides of his career, and he had ended up doing real estate appraisal, and then as I was a young child, through about when I became a teenager, he was working for various insurance companies. But then after that, he got back into music, and the whole time he still had like a lot of private students, and my mom always had private students. So needless to say, I was surrounded with music, whether it was my parents playing or my mom teaching people to play. I was surrounded by music and constantly hearing flute pieces and etudes and my dad playing records and stuff. And it was cool. I mean, there was a phase where my dad would always be like taking me to Amoeba Records. I don't know if you've ever been to Amoeba.
I've not, but I know of it, of course.
Yeah, I mean, so there's 3 Amoeba locations. I don't remember if Berkeley is still open. I think Berkeley's still open. Well, there was one when I was growing up. There was one in Berkeley, one in San Francisco, and there's also one in LA, which closed and then moved to a new location. But I'd always get to go and like buy CDs because my dad was always going there before the age of Spotify and all that, trying to stay one step ahead of his best students. He's like, I gotta keep them coming. So I gotta find something new that's like harder to teach them each week. So he was buying he got way into Primus and Les Claypool. Cause I mean, that stuff is very challenging to play on the bass. So, Primus and like Stu Ham records and like Level 42. So from an early age, I was always listening to, fairly complex music between classical music and progressive rock and funk and stuff like that. And around the time I was 8, my mom, or I guess 9, my mom put me in piano lessons. She made a pretty strong point not to start me off too young. I think she just sort of gave me a variety of sort of toy level instruments to mess around with and see what I gravitated towards. So I had like a little guitar and I had a little accordion, and also at my disposal were all the instruments they had, but I had to use the nicer ones under supervision, of course, because as a kid, you just put something on the floor and then kick your juice over on it. And next thing you know, you're jumping up and down on it like a trampoline. And not really, I'm exaggerating, but the point being,
my kids would definitely jump on my guitars.
There was a story. Apparently, one time my uncle was watching me when my parents were both gigging as a very young child, and apparently I took one of my dad's guitars and just absolutely just destroyed it, like smashed it to pieces, and my uncle just let me do it.
What?
And I'm not sure exactly why he let me do it. It was a very strange story. Maybe there's more to the story that I missed. But in any case, I must have been a handful as a young child. That's the subtext there. But when I was 9, my mom said, "All right, we can put you in lessons now." She didn't want to do the put your kid in music at age 3 so that they're a virtuoso, but also hate music. She didn't want me to develop a negative connotation with music. So I got into, about third grade, I got into playing piano. Because I'd been surrounded by music my whole life, I had a good ear, very developed ear. And so I was learning I would get my teacher to play the piece for me, and then I would learn it by ear and play it back to her. And I'd play it really quick. And so as a consequence, I wasn't reading the music. And eventually she caught on to me and she was like, hey, you got to look at the music, but and eventually I did start reading music, but my ear was just faster than my eye. So that's been a constant mission of mine ever since, is to try and get my reading to keep up with my ear. So I was taking piano lessons, really loved that. Fourth grade, the next year, I started also taking violin. And I was doing pretty good at violin, but I just didn't really like the timbre of violin in general. And in about fifth grade, I decided I wanted to switch to something else. I didn't want to play cello. I wanted to play guitar, but my mom and dad said that I had to play something that was in an orchestra. I had to play an orchestral instrument.
Was that because they saw that as where they thought you might go professionally, or is there just...
Well, they wanted me to play in ensembles. I don't know what they thought I was going to do professionally. I think they just didn't want me to abandon it so early in my life.
Fair enough.
And I'm thankful for them that they did that, because being able to play upright bass is, I would argue, like one of the things that sets me apart in a sea of many people who only do one or the other.
Absolutely.
Although there's many, many people who do both really well. I'm not saying there aren't, but I'm thankful that I do both, and I'm thankful for the foundation I got with classical music, even if I haven't continued on that path beyond college. So, so I played in school orchestras, and I played in like extracurricular. I played in youth orchestra throughout high school. I kind of let my piano playing fall off gradually. I also started playing electric guitar and took lessons from my Uncle Scott. It was really cool. I mean, he taught me all. The first song I ever learned was Rumble by Link Ray.
Oh, nice.
From Pulp Fiction.
Mm-hmm. That's a great song.
It is. I think maybe one of the coolest songs I ever learned on guitar. I got way into playing Led Zeppelin, and at one point I taught myself Eruption by Van Halen, sort of. But, my dad, the first amp he bought me was like a little Fender Pro Junior tube amp. And I had maybe like one Rat overdrive pedal, but I didn't have all the metal effects, so I couldn't get the tones like some kids. So I don't know. I liked playing guitar. I started playing acoustic guitar, still playing the bass, got in a jazz ensemble in high school. My grandma, I would spend my summers in Medford, Oregon, where my grandma lived. And she was always big on like not material gifts, but like educational gifts. And so she would pay for me to go to this jazz camp. And so I did that for a couple of summers. I also went to this camp every summer for like 8 or 9 years called the Golden Gate Bass Camp. And I still have a lot of friends from there to this day that I keep in touch with. It was really a great thing. Both of those camps were really a great thing for me. So yeah, I was getting more into jazz in high school as well. I remember as a kid, like trying to listen to my Discman, listen to like, Epitaph Records, Punkorama 7, Punkorama 8, the compilation records. And I'd be in the car and my dad would be blasting like Charles Mingus or something. I'd be like, oh, God, I hate this. But sorry if I, but I mean, now, it's Mingus. He's incredible. And
of course.
I love Mingus now.
But as a kid, you don't want to like what your parents like. That's not cool.
No, and I didn't even, so like there was this radio station in the Bay Area called Live 105 that I always wanted to listen to. They played all the alternative rock and I liked it up until about 2003, where alternative became kind of like weirdly like dance music. Like I think, like when you got into like Hot Heat and like Franz Ferdinand and all of that, I started to lose interest in that genre. Although I did like that song, Take Me Out.
It's a great song.
It's a great song.
But I get what you mean. It all kind of developed this singular, straightforward kind of like almost anthemic, dancey thing, which is fine.
Yeah, it was more poppy. I decisively did not like pop. I decisively did not. Well, I had no basis to know whether I liked country, I guess. But all I knew of country back then was like radio country, and it never really caught my ear. I did love Eminem as a kid. I listened to a lot of Eminem. I felt like I was getting away with a crime listening to Eminem because of all the insane things he says on those records. But you realize, like, he wasn't a bad guy. He's just talking about his reality. You
realize as you get older, as a kid, there's, and maybe some adults still feel this way, but there's certain styles and genres that are like kind of intentionally scary. Mm-hmm. Death metal and gangster rap and stuff. And then you realize that as
they're some of the nicest people in the world, though.
They're so nice, a lot of them. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely outliers in all genres, but you realize that that's their outlet to get this part of them, like, so they don't do bad things sometimes. Right. It's like, so they can talk about it and, all right, we're done. When that left that part of me in the song.
Right, yeah. I mean, to quote one of my favorite musicians, Frank Zappa, it's the 20th century. Do whatever you got to do to have a good time. Let's get on with it, so long as it doesn't cause a murder, right?
Yeah. I like that.
Obviously, nothing's that simple. But so I was, in my early teenage years, I was more into like punk rock and getting into classic rock. Then towards the end of high school, I was getting more into jazz, and I took a liking to ska music as well. I'd like to go see bands like the Suburban Legends and stuff like that. Still liked punk. I would go to hardcore shows. And I loved playing in orchestra, but I didn't like listening to, what I was getting at was there was Live 105 and then the classical station was 102.1. And so my dad would say, all right, that's enough Live 105. Now we're going to listen to Dead 102. Because all the people being played on that station were dead for 100 years. So yeah, I didn't like. It took me a minute to enjoy listening to classical music and enjoy listening to jazz, even though I was exposed to it at a very young age, and I did benefit from the ear training aspects of that, regardless of whether I wanted to listen to it or not. But towards the end of high school, I started to understand, like, jazz is like a whole other, it's an entirely different platform for understanding music, So when I got into college, I started getting into the jazz ensembles. I had my own band, I had a couple bands in college, but the main one that I sort of started with a couple of friends, one of my friends named Matt Goff, who was a high school friend of mine. He started playing drums. His brother played drums. And so he was more into hand percussion in high school, but he got into drums in college. And we had a house together sophomore year. We started this band called Copacetic. And it was sort of a combination between we wanted it to be like a band where we could play whatever we wanted, but some of our influences were like Afrobeat stuff, like, all the Daptone Records bands like Budo's Band and Antibalas and Menahan Street Band. Then, just funk like James Brown or whatever. We covered Superbad at one point. We used to cover Jungle Boogie as well. Mm-hmm. And then also like Ethiopian jazz, like Mulatu Astatke. These were the influences for those Daptone bands, and we just kind of tried to follow their course and also forge our own path, and bring in wacky stuff like Zappa-esque type of influence in as well, and so that was sort of our brainchild that we did for years. Also with this guitarist named Simon, who was in my freshman dorm with me. And that lasted throughout college. I also joined this other really cool band that was it was called Cape Sound, and it was sort of it's hard to say. It was sort of in the vein of like Wilco and Nels Cline meets like progressive rock. We have one album out with that band that I think is on Spotify. And I was really proud of that record. Still am in many ways. No, you know what? I'm still proud of that record.
Nice.
So I finished college. I went to grad school at Cal Arts, studied jazz. I got to do a semester in Charlie Hayden's ensemble before he passed away, and studied with Darek Olas. Studied with Alfonso Johnson. I should also mention in my undergrad, I studied with Barry Green, who's a really great classical bassist who ran that camp I went to in high school.
Oh, cool.
And also a guy named Stan Poplin was really great. He ran the ensembles and was a great upright bassist from the Santa Cruz area. I believe he's still there. But yeah, I felt like Santa Cruz was a great school, and I had a lot of friends there, and I really loved my time there. I gigged around that town any chance I got. I played all over. I played house parties. I played frat parties, keg parties, bars, restaurants, what have you. Galas, whatever gigs came my way, I would do them in college. But I felt like, okay, I gotta go to a bigger scene, and I gotta go to a school that has more of a jazz department, more of a focused jazz program, because at the UC, it's more focused around like classical guitar and the vocal majors and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a lot out of going to Cal Arts and studying with a great jazz faculty there. I was playing all the time, probably many days, 5 to 8 hours a day, just rehearsals with my own bands, faculty-led ensembles, just anything I could do going in. I had access to the studio, so I had a sort of an introduction to engineering and production as well, which is really, really incredible. I mean, such a cool resource.
Oh yeah.
And you had to kind of be savvy with that studio, because somebody else would come in there and mess up the settings and not know what they were doing every other day. So you were forced to learn how to troubleshoot studio issues, and it was frustrating.
Bunch of college kids let loose in the studio, and you're telling me there's issues? What do you mean?
Yeah, and it was only a small set of, because you had to take the class to have access. But some people would take the class and like not really care or pay attention, and they just go in there and mess around. So that was frustrating, but it is what it is. It's a communal resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was really starting to get well on my way. I was doing transcriptions, practicing as the hardest standards I could find, all the Coltrane changes, stuff like that. Although there's also stuff that's really hard in other ways. Started gigging in LA and started touring as soon as I got out of college. But, around 2000, so in 2016, I did this tour for about 3 months, made a little bit of money that more than covered my monthly expenses. So I got a little bit complacent and wasn't pounding the pavement, trying to meet people as much as I probably should have been. And then suddenly I had to move, and oh no, my money's all gone in 2017. Right. So that was sort of like, even though I had gigs before that, leading up to that, I felt like that was where I really started from ground zero with my career, was probably like 2017, even though I'd gigged 7 years before that as well. And then, so then I started doing this regular gig in Glendale at a place called the San Fernando, and also went to other jam sessions around town. The Mint Jam, the Falls Jam. A lot of these places are not happening anymore, but the Mint Jam's still happening. Trying to think. There's this place called the 77 Lounge over in Culver City, where this band called Loudest Funk Band, which I believe they're just going to start playing shows. As of the other day, they're going to start playing again.
Cool.
But really incredible band. So I just sort of started like reaching out to the scene, and meeting as many people as I could, playing anywhere I could. And I started getting more and more consistently gigs. I had a few tours interspersed in there. I went on a tour with this great blues guitarist, Harless Sweetwater.
Oh, I'm familiar.
You know him?
Yeah.
So I did some touring with him back in 2016.
Cool.
I guess because my friend Adrian Terrazas Gonzalez, who was he's this great saxophonist. If you've ever listened to like Francis the Mute by the Mars Volta. He's
Oh,
all
yeah.
over he's
Yes,
all over
yes.
those records, like the flute and the woodwinds on those records are him.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
I think Bedlam and Goliath too. And he also had this band that was sort of a super group called Tram. That's really cool. I think it was like, I can't remember everybody who's in the band off the top of my head, but I think David Fukuzinski is in there among others. I'll have to look it up. Pull that up for me, Jamie.
Yeah, I wish I had a Jamie.
Yeah,
I don't quite have the budget for a Jamie yet. After 10 years, I don't think you'd think I'd have one by now, but not yet.
Jamie is worth his weight in gold.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So, those were cool. I had this band that I created with this great trumpeter named Chris Lawrence called Linosphere, and this drummer named Jacob Richards, who his artist name is Battery. Cool. Incredible drummer who also went to Cal Arts. And I met him after my first year. I met both of them after my first year at Cal Arts at this summer program that happened on campus there called SIM, School of Improvised Music. And the faculty was stacked, man. It was like Uri Kane on keys and Jim Black on drums, Johnny Bear on bass, Chris Speed, saxophone. There's also this guy, DJ Olive, who was there just sort of, doing his thing and contributing his perspective. And so much growth in 1 week and so many lifelong connections in 1 week. And so me, Chris, and Jacob, we decided like, oh man, we got to do something together. So I was writing a lot of original music when I was at Cal Arts getting my master's. I was writing all the time in addition to like learning standards and stuff. And so we all brought tunes in and I set up a recording session at Cal Arts at the studio there. And we recorded that stuff and eventually put out a first record. We did a little mini tour of Michigan. And that was, I think, 2015, if I'm not mistaken, 2014 or 2015. So I had like, various original projects that I was really pursuing and booking shows for. Did shows at the Blue Whale with this band, which is a venue that closed down during COVID. But I think they are they're opening up a new one soon.
Cool.
So yeah, I was staying busy in the LA scene. Did a few more tours between 2017 and 2018. 2019, I got called to play with Haley Reinhart. My friend Balam Garcia, who's a great guitarist, put me on that gig. That was a life-changing experience, one I'll never forget. I toured with her pretty much up until COVID. I still do like one-offs with her now and then. But then, COVID happened. I'm home.
I don't mean to pump the brakes too quickly here, but what do you mean it was a life-changing experience? In what way?
Yeah, so the just the level of musicianship, it was like every aspect of a tour that can be a grind in a way. It was worth it. It was worth getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. to make it to sound check on time. Because we weren't a bus tour, so we couldn't drive overnight, Right. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows this, but like renting a bus is like 60 grand or more, maybe 80 grand a month. Like,
it's very
unless
expensive.
you have a super high budget tour, I mean, if you have a really high budget tour, it's an afterthought. I mean, on our last tour with Zach Bryan, at the peak of the year when we had the stadium crew, we had 27 buses on that tour. So
But when you're not at that level, a van's expensive.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I in the past I had done the tour where you drive in your friend's Subaru or your friend's Toyota Camry. I've driven in the Econoline van. I think if it's a van tour, I think I like the Econoline van the best.
More than a Sprinter?
Yeah. Unless it's like one of those nice Sprinters. But if it's just one of the Sprinters with like the smaller seats, that sucks. Those are they pack them in too tight and it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
And our Sprinters with Haley were like half and half. It was like 4 lazy boys and then like a really tight row of seats. So whoever was last to van call got the seats.
Hey, that's how it works, man. That's how it works.
Of course, Haley always had a good one reserved for her, as
Of
she
course.
should, she should. But I think Haley now has her own Sprinter that is outfitted really nicely, so they all just tour in that now.
Cool.
But yeah, every aspect of touring that was like a grind, the late nights and the early mornings, it didn't even matter because it was so incredible musically working with that band. With the band, I think on that tour, the band was me, Balam Garcia, Anders Gran, who is the Swedish guy. He's a little older than us, but he is a songwriter and also worked as a producer on Haley's record, Lo-Fi Soul. And on keys was David Grosby. He's more of a reggae. He's doing more reggae stuff now, but it was great to play with him. I think he's living up in Santa Barbara these days. And Jose Perez on drums, who now plays, and then too, but now mostly plays with Poncho Sanchez as his timbalero. So that was a really great time in my life. And then we were supposed to tour Europe in 2020, and it's COVID.
Not doing that. Yep.
I didn't know what to do. I mean, I felt like the trajectory of my career had been completely ripped out from under me, and I had to rethink what I was going to do. Thank God I had a little bit of an emergency fund that, I had some, I had some stocks I had sold like right before the pandemic that carried me through until I was able to get on unemployment, which, as you know, took months for that to even get sorted out. Right.
Of course.
So I was super frustrated, and it was still good though, because I was honing my craft. I was practicing all kinds of stuff. I was doing like, those Instagram collab videos everybody was doing. Did a ton of that. At one point I was putting out a video every couple of days, and I was even doing that like before COVID too. I was just putting videos of myself on Instagram, not worrying super hard about production quality, but just trying to just play the stuff I liked and put it out there. And then June 2021 rolls around. Things are opening up a little bit. I'm doing a few more gigs. I went down to Cabo, did a gig with this great pianist and singer named Emily Bear. I'm not sure if you've heard of her, but she was recently in Beyonce's band, but also is doing like a lot of film composition stuff.
Cool.
So I'm doing a little bit of stuff here, a little there, and then I get a call in June of 2021, and it's my friend Amir, who went to Cal Arts and UC Santa Cruz as well. And he's like, "Hey, do you know any cajon players?" And I say, "You're a drummer, dude. I'm just going to tell you drummers, because there's nobody who just plays cajon."
Right.
And I was like, honestly, like, well, you should just do the gig, And he said, "You know what? You're right. I'm going to be in town for the gig anyway. I'm going to play drums. Why don't you play bass on it?" I said, "Oh, okay, cool. Well, what's the gig?" He said, "Oh, it's this country songwriter guy named Zach Bryan." I said, "Oh, really? Okay, cool." So we played at it was like a benefit show for a charity called 22 and Troops. I think is Christian McCaffrey, the football player's charity.
Okay.
He's involved with it. Christian was at the show and sat in on a couple songs with us on piano.
Cool. Nice.
And I was like showing Christian, what inversions to play on Revival backstage, never knowing what Revival was going to be in 3 years. It was just at the time, it was just another one of Zach's songs. And we didn't realize it would be like the ultimate encore of encores.
Yeah. Oh, it really has turned into that, hasn't it?
It's like a 20-minute song now, because we have this horn section and this string section. There's like 10 new members in the band. So it's like 20 minutes long.
I think the last time I caught it,
it's an
live,
experience.
Yeah, it was at Farewell Fest in Oregon, and yeah, I was like, man,
you caught a good one.
It's gotten longer.
Sheryl Crow. That was the night Sheryl Crow came out with us.
Yep. Yep.
That was great. She was really great. I really loved getting to meet her and share the stage with her for an evening. She's really awesome.
That was cool.
So nice.
Yeah.
And she's always been on my mind because a family friend of ours named Dan Schwartz was a session bassist in LA. He passed away from cancer a couple of years ago, but he played bass on that record where, all I want to do is have some fun. That's Dan on bass on that one.
Oh, cool.
And actually I had the privilege of, his daughter and his widow, they hit me up. Gosh, let me rephrase that. His daughter and his wife. That sounds so weird to say widow. I had the privilege to check out his bass collection, and I actually ended up buying a couple of basses off of them from the estate. So I got this one.
Yeah, let's check it out. Oh, sick.
Yeah, so this is a 70s Guild M85.
That is awesome.
It's got these Dark Star pickups, and I love Dark Star pickups, and so that was something like, in the last couple of years of Dan's life, I would go over there to his place in Silver Lake, and we would just chat about gigs, about life, and we always bonded on our love for the Guild Dark Star pickups.
Mm-hmm.
I have like so many basses with these pickups on them.
I need to. I think you just set another shopping spree up for me because I need to experience those. That thing looks cool.
Curtis Novak makes a really good replica. I
Okay.
have that on. I have a P bass with just one of those on it, and then I also had Dallas Seeger build me a bass with one on it as well.
Sweet.
Hold on, let me carefully put this back on the stand.
Yeah, no worries. For all the listeners, folks, if you're not watching the YouTube version, go watch the YouTube version because that is a cool looking bass.
Hey, Rocky.
What's up, Vincent?
Did you hear about the latest?
Latest what?
The latest drop from Maris. It's totally insane.
No, tell me more.
Maris just released Enzo X.
What's that?
Enzo X is a supernova expansion from the original Enzo into the highest quality and most flexible studio synthesizer ever created in a pedal format.
Whoa!
Enzo X combines 5 synth types, 5 drives, 3 reverbs, and 5 modulations. It also includes a full 2.5 second stereo delay, all in one pedal.
That sounds hard to use.
It's not. The UI is from the same family as the Mercury X and the LVX. It's super easy to dive in and see exactly what you are tweaking in real time.
Oh, I see. It's right there on the screen.
Yep.
Is it just for guitars, though?
Nope. You can plug almost anything into the Enzo X, including your MIDI controller.
That sounds incredible. Where do I get it?
You can pick up Enzo X online at maris.us or at any of their fine retailers across the globe.
Did you just say across the globe?
They know what I meant.
Wait, are we getting paid for this?
I'm still waiting on that cash money from last time.
He better at least give us pizza for dinner.
I'm not giving him his Enzo X back until he does.
For more information, make sure you check out maris.us, and apparently I have to go order a pizza. How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedalboard. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Yeah, this is great. It's a Sunburst, has a single cutaway button. All right, I'll stop.
Oh no, that's what this show's for. No, you don't have to worry about that. That's fine.
So we're in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're playing the Fillmore, which is about a 2,000 cap room. It's packed, and it's the first, it's not the first show Zach ever played, but it was the first show we ever played with almost the full band, I think. They had done some live stream stuff. They did something at the Seattle Space Needle, and then Zach and the boys built a stage in his backyard in Seattle. And so they did some stuff during COVID, but this was the first live show with a full audience since the beginning of COVID. And Zach was still in the military at the time. So we did a gig. I didn't know what was going on, but I mean, we made it happen, and the audience loved it. We had a great time, and I went home thinking, oh, well, that was cool. Maybe I'll get to play with them again someday. Amir calls me back, says, hey, there's 3 more festivals, and the bassist that originally was in the band seems to be not able to do these gigs either. Do you want to do it? I said, yeah, I'll do it. And then after that, it was do you want to be the guy? They're booking a tour now. And we did a small, 5-week tour. We had a bus. It was pretty cool. We were playing poker every night on the bus. It was such a blast. We had Zach's dog, Jack Daniels, is a little puppy on there. And pissing everywhere. Which is what they do. Yeah, is what they do. And yeah, so it was just after that, it was off to the races, man. After that first tour, it was mostly sold out, if not completely sold out. I can't recall off the top of my head, but 22 was more of the same. Plus, we were doing stuff with Luke Combs's tour and Willie Nelson's tour, so we did some opening slots. And then at the end of 2022, Zach was like, we're never doing festivals again unless we headline, and we're never opening for anybody ever again. And 2023 was when we started the arena tour, and then 2024, there was stadiums and arenas all year. And this year, I think we just did Stagecoach, and it's, it's just all stadiums this year. So that's, such a crazy quick ascent, man. I see people take so much longer to get to that.
Well, my wife and I were talking
just
about
the right
this.
place at the right time.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about this last night because she's like a country, I love country music. I grew up listening to it. Listeners have heard this story a million times, but she's as into punk as I was as a teenager. That's how into country she is now. She's just very drilled into the scene and always paying. So she was telling me about Zach years ago.
Right.
And I was like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And then some friends of mine in the band Lucero, which sounds weird to say because I grew up as a super fan of them, and now they are, I'm friends with some of them. They were playing a show in Canby, Oregon.
Yeah.
And I was like, Lucero's playing in Canby. That's 15 minutes from my house. Let's go. This is great.
Right. And you know what? I might have mixed up the festivals in Oregon. Did Sheryl Crow come out at the one you saw? Or did you see the one?
So I've seen you guys a couple times. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
So this was so that was Farewell Fest. You got that correct. This was Wild Hare Music Fest, which is very confusing to locals because the Wild Hare is a restaurant and it has 2 locations, one in Canby and one in Oregon City. And they had one festival where it was acts playing their own songs. Then they have another festival that I think they continue to do, which is all cover bands. But like the one you played at was like, it's one's like called Wild Hare Music Fest and one's called Hare Fest, I think.
Cover band fest.
Yeah, and they stopped doing the one that you guys played. That was the only year they did it.
I mean, that would be really fun though.
And so it's confusing. I get it all mixed up, but the cover one's still going, I think. I don't know. But Lucero was playing. I was like, oh wow, we got to go hang out and say hi. And she's like, oh, Zach Bryan's playing this one. And Charles West. Yeah, Wild Hare.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I remember that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, man.
That's when I really realized something was going on because I got turned on to Charles Wesley Godwin at that show. Zach came out for
Great
that
guy.
too.
Love this guy.
He seems like such a cool dude.
He is so cool. He is every bit of a genuine, lovely person as you would ever think.
And man, what a show those guys put on too. So good.
Yeah. No, they toured with us for 2 years. It was amazing. More than 2 years. Yeah.
But when you guys came on, I was looking around because the festival was normal up until that point.
Yeah.
And I was looking around because I hadn't really been paying attention. I was just kind of watching the shows and I'm like, this place is full. Like full. The fairgrounds, there's no more room on the entire fairground for a human body to stand. I was like, oh, she's like, I've been telling you this is turning into a really big deal. It was like 30,000 random people in Canby, Oregon, which is not a place where 30,000 people gather regularly.
Yeah, except when that militia thing happened, right?
Yeah,
Independence, Oregon.
Independence, yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I probably wasn't even 30,000 people for that.
No, I don't think so. But I was like, oh, I need to pay attention to this. Like, as somebody who supposedly exists in the music industry, I should be aware of what's going on here. And so we've caught a few shows since then. But just watching how fast it happened, I was like, this is bananas. I don't think I've ever seen an artist get that big, that fast, ever.
Yeah, it just sort of felt from the beginning. It was like, oh, we can't fail. Like we couldn't fail if we tried, is what it felt like. I mean, obviously, you definitely you're always two bad moves away from losing everything.
Sure,
it's important to remember that in life. But yeah, it was. It wasn't the path of least resistance. It was the path of no resistance.
Right.
Like, we played the Ryman at the beginning of 22, and we had only started touring 6 months before we played the Ryman. And in Nashville, from what little I know of it, I mean, I enjoy Nashville, but like, you can't really play the Ryman until you're like really established and kind of accepted by the scene there. It's sort of like a sacred place to Nashville.
It's a wonderful venue. I love it.
It is.
Yeah. But hey, I mean, podcasts play there now, so who knows?
True. Yeah. Theo Vaughn at the Ryman.
Yeah.
I love Theo. He's hilarious.
He is. He's great.
And really great guy. He came to our show he came to a few of our shows, but I
think he lives in Nashville, if I remember correctly.
He came to our LA show at the Wiltern in 2022, the first time we played in LA with a band. And yeah, I gave him a slice of pizza, and he was really appreciative of that.
He seems like somebody who'd be really stoked about that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I probably left out many details. I don't mean to leave anybody out of the story. It's just my train of thought kind of rambles.
Yeah.
But
it's all good.
Yeah, that's kind of how it all led up to now, I suppose.
So, in like going back on some of this stuff, when you first took the gig, did you have any hint that this was going to go faster than normal? Did it feel like that at all?
I mean, I just figured like, oh, it started off as a one-off gig, and then I was like, oh, like this is crazy. These fans know every lyric, and it's the first show we've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he could just like strum a chord and stop, and they'd sing everything back to him.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, something's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know what it was going to be. I mean, going into it, it was just another gig. After that show, I was like, oh, that's not just any gig. That's something cool's happening there.
Okay. So yeah,
I get to do more.
So there's a vibe. Okay, so I'm not totally, I mean, granted, there was a lot of people at the first show I saw, but I was like, it wasn't just the fact that there were a lot of people there. That was part of it. But I was looking at everybody too, going like, they're locked in. Like, this is something special that doesn't happen maybe ever. Really.
I guess you could say like Zach's sort of like, he's like the mouthpiece for the feelings and emotions a lot of people fail to express, or don't know how to express, or don't have the courage to express. And he just puts it all out there because it's for him. It's just like, fuck it. Like, this is how I feel so strongly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that turns out that goes a long way with people when you can put it all out there like that.
100%.
And with no shyness whatsoever. I mean, I'm sure it's still hard to do, but yeah. So, oh yeah, I forgot to mention in 2019, I met my my girlfriend, who I will marry in the near future.
Oh, very nice.
Olivia Jane, and she's a great singer. I met her actually in 2014, but we started collaborating in 2019 and just innocently making music together. And then 2020, we grew a lot closer and ended up becoming an item. And we've been releasing our original music since about 2021 as well.
Oh, cool.
So that's what I'm doing when I'm back home, is developing that outside of just doing gigs and such. And we've got about 4 more songs to finish before our first record is done, but we've got about 5 singles released as of now. And it's always such a hard dilemma. You know, it's like, gosh, we've been working on this music for so long. Like, I kind of just want to put the complete product out there, but everybody says, you know, oh, you gotta release it one single at a time because you'll just get more out of it that way with the promotion side of things. You know, the promotion, the power of promotion is greater if you can push less more often than one thing once, I guess.
That seems to be the case. Yeah. And so, of course, I took and did the complete opposite of that. I did a solo record about 21, somewhere in there, because I was realizing, and I've told this story a million times, but not to you, so I'll tell it again, that I found myself in this very fortunate position where I have this space. I have more gear than I could possibly imagine as a kid, you know. And I realized, like, 14-year-old you would be so mad at adult you. Oh yeah, look at that. Similar situation.
That's not even all of it.
Yeah. So it's just this, you know, because that's the industry I work in, and people want me to talk about stuff, so I get to check things out, and I'm very thankful for that. But
yeah,
I realized that I'm like, I have all this cool stuff, and I'm not doing anything with it outside of talking about the stuff. I'm like, here's a pedal. Listen to it. Isn't that cool? And that's valuable, because
now I'm going to show you my clean tone.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was doing, and I will continue to do. But I was like, I need to make a record. And then it was like, what kind of record are you going to make? And I said, I don't know. How about you plug all this stuff in that you have and see what comes out, and just go with it, whatever that is.
Exactly.
And so I made this weird record and put it out on the podcast instead.
Oh, cool.
I kept trying to get you know, I know obviously people in the music industry, and I kept trying to get people to bite on this concept of the podcasts and albums are listened to the same way. Sometimes, in Spotify's case, on the same platform. It's still like a WAV file or an MP3 file that exists on the cloud, and you download it to your device and you listen to it. It's the same thing. And so I was like, what if you got together with a company or a brand or something, and you released a record as a podcast with a sponsor instead of relying entirely on streaming? And so I did that with Sweetwater for that record.
Wow. How did that go?
Way better than if I had dropped it on streaming by itself.
That's sick.
So it was made to be listened. It's also a little bit unique. All my audience is listening to the podcast, so they're used to long form audio content. And the record was made to be listened to all in one block. I split it up for streaming, but it was one big WAV file, 40-minute WAV file. So, yeah. But all that to say is, like, I didn't do it the right way, but it still worked. So, I mean, at least to my standards, which are rather small, being realistic.
The most important thing, this is something that I've been thinking about ever since our production manager. For those listening who don't know, the production manager on a tour, the production manager, especially a bigger tour, he is like the kingpin of the entire operation.
Oh yeah.
They are really driving the bus, so to speak, not literally. Our production manager, Steve Dramalski, he said, because he's a musician himself, and he just released his own record, and actually even did an opening slot for us at the Vikings Stadium in Minneapolis.
Nice.
Last year. But his band's called Sundown 47. It's really great. People should listen to it. But he told me, I have music I've been sitting on for so long, and I haven't released it into the world because it's like, I'm happy with it as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want the world's reaction to it to change how you feel about it now.
Okay.
And I really resonated with that. I said, yeah, that is why I tend to, I mean, I've made records, just mixed them and put them out and let it be done. And that's, sometimes it is better to just rip off the Band-Aid, because if you really overthink it, I mean, you have thoughts like that, and it's just like, but that's what's important is like, do you like it? If
I don't
you
know
like
if,
it,
I'm such a stick in the mud that I don't know that the world's opinion would change my opinion all that much.
Yeah.
Like, I'm open to other people's ideas and input, and I don't want to come across like I would never listen to what anybody says. That's not what I mean. But
sure,
if I'm really proud of something, it's going to have to take a very thoughtful, insightful person to change how I feel about it.
No,
right?
I would agree. It's just, it can be, I guess I'm driving at the point that it can be discouraging when you worked so hard and spent all this money on something and spent all this time, and you put it out there and it gets, 100 streams or 1,000 streams.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just the expectation I have. Yeah. So, I'm still constantly amazed that people tune in to hear this. I'm like, thank you for being here, but this is still kind of crazy to me that happens even at this rather small scale.
Yeah, but I mean, more than that. I mean, it's also important to realize that your friends, they want to support you, but your friends are not your fans necessarily.
No.
More necessarily, they aren't than they are.
Most of my closest friends and almost none of my family, with maybe one exception, listen to this show. Why would they? They talk to me in real life.
Yeah. So, my following is a mixture of like people I've met early in life, people I've met since being in LA and on tours, and a lot of Zach Bryan's fans as well. If I start pushing my original music and the end of the road is just posting it on Instagram, I mean, I might get a few genuinely supportive people who listen to it, and some of them might even like it and become a fan of my music. And that has happened, but that's not an effective promotion strategy,
Not typically.
So
I mean, it used to be. It certainly, in some ways, worked for Zach, but again, that's one example.
He's just different, man. He started just like leaking his music on YouTube and he blew up on YouTube and Twitter from what I heard.
That's what I
And I
understand
will
too.
call it Twitter because back then it still was Twitter
Yes.
and not X. Yeah. But yeah, and that's. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Hey, it's all good. That's fine. That's what I'm here for. Because one thing we haven't really touched on that I would probably be in trouble, because this is in theory some sort of gear show, but it hasn't really been a gear show in many years, if we're being real.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about gear if you want to talk about gear.
I'm curious what your rig looks like to play these massive shows. I know what everything kind of looks like below that level, to like theater gigs and below. I'm like, I kind of get an idea of what that is. But for something to fill a stadium, what does that look like?
Okay, so when I started touring with Zach, we would backline, an Aguilar amp. I've endorsed Aguilar since my time with Haley back in 2019.
Cool.
I played their amps many years before then, and they never break. They have the right attack. They sound good. I like them. That's what I've always used, and I have no plans to change that, unless the amp breaks and they go out of business or something, I guess. But they were acquired by Korg, so I don't see that happening.
Probably not.
Yeah. But anyhow, I was usually playing like an 810 with a DB 751, or a 410, But with upright bass, I mean, that's a disaster, especially back then when we were using wedges on stage. Like, it was just a feedback nightmare. Like, some venues was impossible for me to play, and people would be like, Zeph, why you always look so pissed off? And I'm like, I could tell you, but you wouldn't want to hear why. But I assure you, it is incredibly frustrating to try and play to a large audience and not be able to hear yourself or play a note without horrible feedback happening. So eventually I went to FMI, Fantastic Musical Instruments in Pasadena. I got the green light from management, said, okay, we're going to buy you a dedicated upright for tour and stop just renting random ones in every city or whatever. And so I had this K bass from the 1930s. Anybody's familiar with K basses, they're sort of like, they're just the perfect older plywood uprights for country and bluegrass. They just have this sort of thuddy sound that's just like, you don't want the world's most like rich, dynamic sounding upright bass to play country on, because
not really. There's
too many frequencies coming at you. You want doom, doom, doom. It's the same thing with like salsa music. They all play in the Ampeg, the fiberglass Ampeg baby bass, right? Mm-hmm. Because I mean, especially like in Latin music, like bass is literally another percussion instrument, right? But not to get too sidetracked on that. So I got this K bass, and I had the guy at FMI. Oh, I feel like a dick. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. Pull that up for me, Jamie. Great guy though. He's been very helpful every time I've gone in there, and he owns the shop. I'm gonna have to look this up because I feel like a jerk.
Go for it. I can look it up while you're telling the story. Let's do that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I had him install a second sound post on the bass, which sort of deadens it acoustically, but you can still, when you plug it into the pickup, it still sounds the same. So that went a long way with helping the feedback. And then when 2023 came around, we had graduated to arenas, and we were no longer throwing our gear in a trailer or a single box truck, with 1 to 2 techs for the whole band. We had a big change, and sound, we were playing in the round, and sounds going 360 degrees around the room.
Unfortunately, their website looks like it's from 1998, and I don't see his name on there.
I'll go on Yelp and I'll find it. Hold on, one second.
But it is indeed in Pasadena, California, and it looks like a really cool shop.
It is. No, he like makes all these rockabilly basses too.
Oh,
so like
nice.
He's used to guys coming in there being like, "Oh man, we got to play loud," and my feeding back.
Yeah, it's feeding back, and also I want to stand on the side of it while I play it. So how can we make that happen?
Yeah, we gotta reinforce it.
I always think about the Coffin Cats, and like that dude's always standing on the side of his upright bass while playing it. I'm like, is that a custom thing, or can all
No, they
upright basses-
reinforce. No, you cannot do that with all upright
I
basses.
didn't think so.
They reinforce it. They have to. They have to reinforce. I remember remember that band, the Necromantics.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely.
He had like a coffin-shaped bass that was really cool.
Yes, it's good stuff.
And then there was bands like Tiger Army. That was going back to the Epitaph Records stuff. Like those were two bands. I was just like, oh, sick upright basses being used in like punk and rock.
I really like Tiger Army. Tiger Army's cool.
I never did get into the like rockabilly slap stuff, but
it's an
that is a
interesting
skill
world.
I would like to have, to be honest. Okay, there's just nowhere. Man,
Neither of us are Jamie. We can't pull it up.
okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but
Just know it's
I recommend
on 789 East Washington Boulevard in Pasadena,
yes,
California.
I recommend Fantastic Musical Instruments.
There you go.
Okay,
That's probably
so
good enough.
So anyway, yeah. So then that year, 2023, we made a change, and it was like, okay, I'm no longer using an amp, and I'm just using a sub. I just have a sub on stage.
Okay.
And my pedal board is pretty simple. I'm using an Origin Effects, got a tuner, Origin Effects Cali 76 compressor.
Yes.
And the bass rig, the Fender Bassman version of the bass rig pedal, just to add a little bit of grit to poke through. And then the basses I play on the gig are Fender P bass, Fender Mustang, Fender Jazz bass, and then there's a couple of these basses made by this guy Dallas Seeger that I've been playing. I'll show you the one that the boys had commissioned for me on my 33rd birthday.
All right, let's check it out.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblintsaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
Oh, look at that.
This is a custom job. It's sort of inspired by a Maserati body style.
Yeah.
Those old guitars all the surf guys played.
I love that.
So this was a pre-existing body design he had. I saw him do it. He did like a double P bass thing, which looked really good, but I had different interests when it came to, this is the first time I got to design a bass myself. So the essential, first and foremost, most important part of the bass is this Dark Star pickup. Of course, this is a Curtis Novak Dark Star. And then this is like a Thunderbird style humbucker for the bridge pickup made by this company called Avedisian.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar. Yes.
Yeah, so Novak and Avedisian, and also another company named Arcane. Those are like my three favorite pickup makers in this day and age. I had some toggle switches installed. So this one is a what is this one? It all makes sense when I'm playing, but I forget when I'm not playing. Well, I know the middle one is the fuzz diode.
Oh, cool.
This is the coil tap for the Dark Star.
Yeah.
So that's coil tap. So more bassy, less bassy, a little bit of fuzz, I don't use that as often as I thought I would, but it's cool to have for like production settings. This is series, so parallel series. And then a cool feature of this bass is that you have 2 volume knobs like a jazz bass, and also a pickup selector switch. And the reason he did that is because when it's in the middle setting, I told him I wanted to have like an out of phase sound as well. And so he made it so that when it's in the middle and both are all the way up, the pickups are out of phase and it gets that kind of like tinny, nasally sound.
Yeah.
That I just have a blast messing around with. But if you turn one volume knob down just ever so slightly, it's just the normal sound of both pickups. Or if you flip it to series, the phase cancellation goes away as well.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And then the last 2 features of the bass, you got a tone knob, and then this is a high pass filter.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So one rolls off the highs, the other one rolls off the lows, up to like the low mids.
Yeah.
It's not extreme, but like just a bunch of different ways to sort of cut bass if in the scenarios where it's overwhelming you in a situation. If you want to cut through a little bit more, you remove some of the low end, but not too much. Those
inlays on it are really interesting. Are those ones you spec'd out?
Not really. He just said like, hey, do you want like mandolin style inlays? Because I was talking about like, well, what if I put some like triangles on there? But I don't know why my mind always goes to triangles. Like my first record, my jazz record I put out in 2017, self-titled Zephyr Avalon. The album art done by an ex-girlfriend who she's a great visual artist and photographer. And I still like that album cover, but for some reason I had this like giant triangle, like fractal triangle thing on there. Every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, Illuminati, dude. Like, why did I do that?
Wait a minute. That's how Zach Bryan blew up. It was the Illuminati.
Hey, no, if that's true, I don't know it. But and then the other feature of this bass is it's a 33-inch scale. So
I was going to say, okay,
slightly short scale, but not super short scale.
Very cool.
But I think I have so many different scales of bass. I got a 5-string Pensa that's 35 inches that I really like for how the tension of the low B sits. Some people don't like that because it's hard to get your fingers across the frets. But I got, I'm a taller guy, so I got bigger hands.
Yeah.
But Mustang is like 30-inch scale or so, and then I got a variety of other weird short scales. A lot of normal scale basses too. I have another Seeger that I'm borrowing at the moment that's sort of an SG style bass with B90 pickups made by the company Sarek. And that's a 33.8-inch scale. And I just like the different scales for different functions.
I'm with you, man.
There's something for everything.
I just realized I don't get to talk about bass very much on this show as much as I should. I mean, it's a lot of guitarists, right? But
yeah,
this is a good opportunity to talk about and show my favorite bass because I haven't got to do this before. Just a second.
By the way, to complete my thought about the inlays, like I just let Dallas do his thing. He's like, I'm going to do some mandolin type stuff, and I was like, yeah, sounds good. So this bass is as much his brainchild as it is mine.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, this is my favorite bass that I have.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a 70s. Made in Japan, Epiphone ET280. Very simple.
Dude. That's really dope. That's dope.
I love how this sounds. I love how it plays. I love how it looks. And it was like $600. It wasn't expensive at all.
You can find little sleepers like that sometimes, man. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I love this thing.
I love Japanese instruments.
Yeah.
I've got an Echo Condor. I think it's a Condor bass, but I can't figure out. I cannot figure out what the model is. It's around here somewhere.
Yeah, I've got an Orville Thunderbird too. That's really great.
Oh, nice.
Something
Orville.
about
I've never heard of Orville.
It was rather Gibson's like Japanese. When all of the Japanese clones were coming over, Gibson decided they needed to get some like official ones.
Oh,
and
okay.
Orville was that brand.
Yeah. Okay. So like that's kind of similar to like Squire. In the
A little
80s.
bit, yeah. They were a
Started
little
as a
higher
brand.
end than Squire,
Well,
or the equivalent.
Well,
or
that's just the thing.
Yeah.
That's just the thing, though. Like Squire initially was not a low-end brand. It was just another brand trying to compete with like Tokai and all of those like Japanese offshoot brands.
And that's why I have a Japanese Squire Strat that
dude
is just fantastic. Again, like $600. This is the Zephyr and Blake show each other guitars podcast, which is a lot of fun for me.
This is my 80s Squire Strat,
dude. Yeah,
that I got for $500.
Yeah, they rip, don't they?
Yeah, this thing sounds great, man. I was just tracking with it the other day, and I was running it through some like gnarly fuzz pedals, octaves and subs and stuff.
I love this guitar so much. Never thought I would love a Strat. I actually been a little bit anti-Strat for most of my life, but this guitar changed that for me.
I just think that Strats and P basses are the truth. You can't hide behind them, but you can't fail if you're doing things right with them either. You know what I mean?
I'm a Les Paul guy at heart, but
of course those are cool too.
I have
endless.
I like everything, really. If I'm being real honest with myself, I like it all. I want it all. More is more, as Yngwie
I think Yngwie. Yeah, less is more. More is more.
That's right.
I don't know. Like I don't know. Yeah, the things I don't like are just things I haven't really extensively tried, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably true for most things.
Such as life, right?
Yes. Oh man, that went fast. I didn't realize we were already over an hour. Look at us go.
Oh, I can ramble for 12 hours if you let me. So.
I would let you. I'm quite enjoying this a lot. But we do need to get over to Patreon. I do have some classic questions I like to wrap this episode up on before I split. But before I do that, I like to give the guests a chance to shout out anybody they want to shout out, plug anything you want to plug. You're talking to a few thousand people right now, so the floor is yours.
All right. I'd like to shout out my lady, Olivia Jane. I'd like to shout out my family. I'd like to shout out my friends, both back home in the Bay Area and here in LA community. I'd like to shout out the boys and Zach and the entire crew for Zach's tour. What an amazing couple years this has been. And I hope we continue to go on this path. I'm thankful to everybody I've ever met for forming me into the person who could be around to do this.
Very cool.
That was very vague, but I'm sticking with it.
I like it. I like it. Well, thank you for taking the time to come on the show and give me that story. I quite enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better and looking forward to doing more of it in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, here we go. We get into the classic questions now. First one. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
The OC2.
Oh, I love the OC2. Man after my own heart. I've got one here somewhere laying around.
I've got two.
2 OC2s.
Yeah, and one is modded to be exactly 9 volts, so you don't run into that weird power supply issue.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know about that, actually.
Yeah.
With some of the older Boss pedals. Got to make sure you got the right power.
I also use the Mutron Octavider that can kind of get a pretty convincing OC2 sound, but and it has like a dedicated sub switch, which is more user friendly, but nothing has balls like the original Japanese OC2s. I just
so
feel
good.
Like the ones that say Octaver, and then there was another one that just said Octave, and I believe those are made in a different country, like it was Taiwan or Korea. I can't remember which. But
they've moved a couple times. I'm not sure. I think it was Taiwan.
Those are good too. I had one, but then I traded it for a Boss Slicer. My friend Dean, who's a great guitarist.
The Slicer keeps coming up on this podcast, and ever since it dropped, I was like, man, I need to get one of those. And for some reason, I still haven't. I've got to fix that.
For those who don't know, oh, this is weird. That green pedal blinking down there is the Boss Slicer, and it's like sort of an LFO pedal for whatever you put into it. It's got like stereo inputs or stereo outputs. I'm gonna put this back on my monitor.
It's like, did I just take something I shouldn't have taken? What's going on?
Whoa! But yeah, it's just a really cool pedal, and just one of those things that just got a bunch of different like preset banks, and it's just a hotbed of creativity. But for me, it's the OC2 all day, every day, because I also like the VB2, the vibrato pedal.
Yes.
Especially in the unlatched function where you can just hit it for like momentary vibrato.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Very cool. Yeah. I love Boss, and that's why I asked that question on this podcast.
Oh, man. Boss is the OGs.
They've got so many cool things, and they get overlooked sometimes.
Yeah. Not by me.
Good. All right. Last question. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh, well, it depends, Should I tell you? I don't know. Like if I'm in New York, I'm gonna start with a slice of cheese and a slice of pep.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm eating garbage pizza, I'm gonna get Hawaiian with pineapple.
Oh, interesting.
If it's a deep dish thing, I will try and get something with like sometimes there's like a Mediterranean one with like artichokes and olives and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's this place in the Bay Area called Zachary's that makes a great Mediterranean deep dish.
I've heard of that place before.
Which is just so incredible. Then there's this place. What the heck is it called? It's in New York, but I also ate at a pop-up in New Orleans. And they make this. I'm not generally a fan of white pies, but sometimes a white pie is really hidden.
Yes.
And I like a good pesto pizza too, but more often that's a miss more than it's a hit.
Yeah.
I like to stick to pizzas with red sauce by and large.
If I'm craving pizza, it's usually a red sauce pizza, but once in a while, there's a place here in Portland that does a really good New Haven style clam pie.
Yeah.
That's great. But the thing I always tell people about is, but you don't really want to go get that if you're really wanting pizza. You go get that if you're wanting like really good clam chowder, because it almost scratches that itch more than it does a pizza itch. It's really delicious though. I love it.
Oh, and if it's wood fired, then margarita.
Mm-hmm.
Wood fired like sourdough pizza. Oh man, so
there's a
too.
new.
I love how there's.
Where at? In Portland. I'm gonna take you to.
Okay.
The Turning Peel.
Oh yeah, man. I will body an entire pizza.
Oh yeah, easy. And that's what's nice. It's like a 13-inch. They have their own like sourdough that's named Bao Bao, and they've been feeding it, and it's just the same sourdough starter over and over again.
Right.
And man, their crust is so chewy and crispy, yet so light. It's just they do an incredible job. So we'll go there.
I just remembered the name of the pizza joint that has the white pie that I like.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Feeney Pizza, and it's in Brooklyn. And the owner has been so hospitable to us in the band, and there's one in Williamsburg and one in Amagansett. I don't know where that is.
I don't either.
It's another neighborhood in Brooklyn or something. But yeah, Feeney Pizza, so good. If you're ever in New York, go.
Will do.
And also like Prince Street's great for like Sicilian style, and they got those like thick cups of pepperoni. But yeah, I don't know. I like to start simple if it's like thin crust, but then if it's bad, I like to put a bunch of toppings on it, like jalapeno and pepperoni and pineapple or whatever, to cover up the fact that it's not that great of pizza. It's like sushi, like a really kind of middle of the road or bad sushi restaurant will have a bunch of different like aiolis and stuff on the, different sauces to cover up the fact that the fish is like not that high quality. And then a really good sushi spot, you don't need any of that. You just get nigiri or whatever you call it. So yeah, it varies. It depends.
It varies. It depends. You have a good range of answers there. I like it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You treat your pizza like you treat your guitars and basses. You know.
Oh man, yeah. No, there's something for every situation.
Mm-hmm.
But like that, there's a saying. It's like, bad sex is like bad pizza, even when it's sex is like pizza, even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. I don't know. That might be an ignorant statement to make in 2020.
Also, I don't know if it's 100% true. I've had pizza that was so bad it wasn't worth having. I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
I'm leaving it there. Not going any further.
Yeah, but I'll eat Domino's. I mean, I will have heartburn, but Domino's is all right with me.
Domino's will be. I've had genuinely though. I've told this story a million times, and this pizzeria is no longer in business. That tells you how bad it is. Place I used to work, there was only one place that would bring us food, and we couldn't leave once we got there because it was a federal regulation thing. Somebody has to be there all the time.
Okay.
And so we had, if we didn't have lunch for some reason, like this was the only option.
Oh yeah.
And
hostage.
It was so bad. The pizza was awful.
It's like
so
that
terrible.
Rubbery cheese and not enough sauce.
I would just, when we would order it, I would literally just take all the toppings off, throw the rest of it in the garbage, and just eat the toppings because the pizza was awful. Just awful.
It takes a lot of will to make bad pizza.
I don't know how they did it. I'm not even good at making pizza, and I can make better pizza than that. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, for real.
It was like, it felt almost intentional. Like, we're going to give these guys the worst experience we possibly can.
That sucks, man. That's terrible.
Well, they're not in business anymore, so.
Well, good, because like 7-Eleven will have a hit and slice sometimes.
Yeah.
Sitting
Costco, anywhere was better than this place. Yeah.
Costco is super mid, but still pretty good.
It's best bang for the buck that you're going to get, for sure.
Right. Yeah, no, it doesn't get better than that. The hot dog soda combo too.
Oh yeah, you got to get both.
You got to get both. 1,000 calories in 10 minutes
for like $7.
Pretty good.
Well, dude, thank you so much for hanging out. We'll slide over to Patreon and see what kind of shenanigans we can get into over there. That work?
Sounds good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, everybody. For Zephyr, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Alrighty, folks, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. Please make sure you check out Zephyr wherever you get your music. It's indeed under his name, Zephyr Avalon. And if you would like to give him a follow on the socials, that will, of course, be wherever the words are on whatever platform you are absorbing this content on. The links will be in the show notes /description/ whatever that is. And thank you again so much for taking the time to listen to this. If you would like more, please go over to Patreon to check out additional bonus ramblings with Zephyr and I. I appreciate y'all so much, folks. Seriously, I can't thank you enough. This is amazing. This is amazing that you guys tune into this, and it really has completely changed my life. Thank you so much. Love y'all. Have a good one.